stream. I had a heated gaming moment where I said America deserved 9/11. And the thing is, when you're a leftist commentator, when you're in politics and the leftist space, like, you always get doxxed, swatted, death threats. It's something that has been, a part of the job, unfortunately. But this time it was different because it was on Fox News, and Dan Crenshaw was crying on Laura Ingraham, and all of a sudden, the death threats became way more prominent, and they started yelling at like other random people that worked at the Young Turks as well. Like the key grip was getting doxxed, and I was like, this dude is not, this is my dumbass. Like, don't dox the key grip. And I didn't want that kind of unwarranted attention to go towards other people for things that I was saying and doing. So that was my first foray into wanting to go out on my own. And I went full-time in 2020, and I started live streaming every day. And by the end of 2020, I had become a fairly sizable content creator on the platform, one of the biggest content creators on Twitch. And I'll say, since then, I've also invited a lot more negative attention to myself, but at least it's just me this time. So,
we hear a lot about how these new internet spaces are apolitical. A lot of your kind of colleagues in the Twitch space stay away from politics. I'm wondering what made you, I know it's kind of natural to your interest. Why do you think talking about politics works for you on the platform? Like, what are the ways that you have learned to kind of crack that space if others haven't?
Yeah, at first I wanted people to talk about politics because I thought like there were a lot of progressive people out there. I thought it was like good to show that progressive politics is not shameful, that people shouldn't be afraid of speaking their opinions on these matters. And then Asmongold became the largest political content creator on the platform, and some people know who that is, but he's a right-wing commentator now, the biggest right-wing commentator in North America, actually. And now I'm like, maybe don't talk about politics. It's better if they stay apolitical. But for the most part, I think like the apolitical nature of this space is just a way to shelter your more reactionary tendencies in general. I think people say that they're apolitical, or they say that they're operating off of common sense beliefs, but usually that just simply means you're right-wing and not open about it. At least in my experience.
Yeah, but obviously there's been a bigger discussion kind of since Democrats have not been in that space, and there's been some thought about how do they find themselves more naturally there. But I'll talk about that later, actually. I want to ask more directly, do you consider the line between like entertainment and activism? Do you think of yourself as a journalist? Like, how do you actually see your role?
Yeah, I don't. I see myself as a political commentator. Like, depending on who I'm talking to, I'll explain it as like Rush Limbaugh without the brain rot. Literally and figuratively, because he had brain cancer. And
You're also saying you don't have brain rot. I'm impressed.
Yeah, and also brain cancer, and also I think holes in his brain from prescription drug overuse. He's dead. He can't. What was he gonna do?
We're focusing on that though.
So anyway, but like it's basically like AM radio, but for Zoomers. So that's the way I describe it to people. And I do find myself to be more of an entertainer than an activist. Even though I do engage in activism, I always stress that, I'm simply an entertainer, and I'm trying to urge others to go out and organize as well, because like, I'm just one person, and I would be saying these things even if I had 30 people watching me. But when I have 30,000, 40,000 people watching me, that means there are 30,000 to 40,000 people that can go out and organize and then build a movement that way. So yeah, I see myself as a political commentator and not an activist, even though I do engage in that.
One of the things I think that folks have found, obviously your audience, testament to this room, skews younger, skews folks who are highly online. I wonder, and it's, is that false? But I guess I'm saying, I think it's also captured an audience that legacy media has missed, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is working in terms of why people are coming to folks like you versus why places like even the New York Times are struggling to reach some of those people?
I think there is a personality aspect to it for sure. But I think the medium that I'm in is so interactive And people are looking for that. There's a sense of community building that exists online, on Twitch and in live streaming in general. And that is not exactly replicable by traditional media outlets. And they're never going to be able to do that regardless. Like, it'd be really funny if Jake Tapper had like parasocial stands. That'd be weird.
I think he does.
Doubtful. But I think that's definitely one reason for why I have these audiences. I'm also at a place, like, I speak the language. I'm from a different generation, and I'm also not in the same traditional media orbit. So I wasn't put through the ringer to develop a certain way of speaking and develop an attitude that is like very DC media bubble oriented. And I think that is genuine, and people appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. To the point about the community, I found it really fascinating. Like, it's very obvious, kind of the power that like folks like you hold. I could add up every CNN hit I did of all last year that did not derive enough interest or followers or conversation as doing one of those streams. But I also wonder if that creates a kind of feedback loop. Like, when I'm doing a story, I don't have to really think about audience or immediate kind of reaction. Do you feel kind of a pressure because you're in a kind of continuous relationship with the audience? I mean, do you worry about saying some stuff because the chat won't like it?
No. I yell at them all the time. Trust me, there's going to be dudes on the microphone today that I'm going to be yelling at, most likely. It's normal. It's a normal part of the process. Like, some people, I think there are certainly people that are audience captured in that regard, but like, for me, I care. I'm way too stubborn and way too brutally honest, and maybe a little autistic. So it's just like, I don't care if someone is disagreeing with me. Like, I will take a position that I believe to be true, and obviously I'll arrive at that position by analyzing the facts. And even if it's unpopular, my goal always is to educate people. And that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that my perspective, that is fairly closer to a more orthodox Marxist perspective, is all too common in American media. Most people have never encountered someone who is speaking about these things from the angle that I take. So I already assume that everyone that's listening in, that's tuning in for the first time, is not immediately on board with the way that I see the world. Mm-hmm. So people are going to be in agreement with me. It's my job to make a convincing argument, and to also instill some sense of class consciousness in people that are tuning in.
Mm-hmm. I want to stick on this question of kind of like community and how you kind of moderate that community. You mentioned to me when we were talking the other time just about the efforts that you all go through in terms of chat moderation. And I found it really interesting because, those type of spaces has been home for bigotry, slurs, things like that. How much time do you have to spend curating that community and moderating?
I mean, it's an ongoing process. It's something that I always have to work on, because I have a lot of other places will safeguard their community. They'll have like paywall, like membership only access if you want to communicate. Mm-hmm. Some places will add like additional checks. For me, I want to have discourse. I want to have back and forths with people. I want to be able to educate people if they have questions on certain things. So I have a 10-minute follower mode, which means if you follow me for 10 minutes on my Twitch, you can say anything you want in the chat. And surely, some people abuse that. They'll come in and they'll try to antagonize or say heinous things. But in that process, I use that as an educational moment, and I also use every opportunity like that to basically say, like, these are the well-defined boundaries in this community, like what is permissible and what is not. Mm-hmm. And that's one way that we moderate the community.
Mm-hmm. To the point about the kind of audience capture, particularly around young people, so much of the discussion has been around young people's disillusion with the political process. I think you speak directly to that. I wanted to see, do you consider yourself trying to overcome that disillusion, or are you just kind of relating to it and kind of wallowing it? Or do you see that kind of education piece as you trying to move people out of their disillusion?
Oh, for sure. I think that disillusionment is a huge problem, because everyone has a tendency to fall to the whims of nihilism. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's really bad for political progress in general. It's really bad for political mobilization in general. And so one of the things that I